4, writing at 4?
I was 4, and my mother asked me, what did I want for my birthday, my 5th birthday? And I said, I want a typewriter, some paper, and I want a Bible. And I don't want the one with pictures in it because I'm here to be a publisher. I said that at 4. Now, here's the thing. I couldn't read till I was 15 years old. So while I knew that I was supposed to be a writer, I couldn't write. I couldn't spell. I didn't know where to put the questions in the quotation. I was in remedial reading. I was in special education. I was in, while you were in school changing classes, I was stuck in a room that looked like a closet, learning how to read. My mother took me out of one school, put me with my grandmother who had me tutored. I dealt with tutoring and remedial reading for years. It wasn't until I was 15 that I grasped understanding writing, how to write, and I started with poetry. I started writing poetry because in poetry, you didn't have to have periods and question marks and quote. You have all of that grammatical stuff in the right places. And from there, I entered a poetry contest and I won a national poetry contest and then an essay contest. And I thought, I'm on to something. I think this is a skill that's beginning to develop in me. And by the time I was in the 12th grade, I had never made the honor roll. I had never had an A in school or any of that till high school. And all of a sudden, I started writing. I was ghostwriting and helping my classmates with their research papers for high school. I was the ghostwriter, ghostwriter in terms of the one you were referring to earlier, where I wrote the speech for the salutatorium for the graduation. I wrote the whole speech. She didn't give me any talking points. I created it. And I hadn't even been close to being a salutatorian. Had never done anything like that or written a speech before. And so by the time, that was in 1996. And from that time on, I was a freelance writer for newspapers. I assisted other writers who were looking to write books. I just did a little coaching here and there, and it grew. And I was just doing it, making some of it I did for free because I didn't know what to charge. And some of it I did for very little of nothing because, again, I didn't know the value of what I had. And I wrote a book that was horribly edited, and I sent it to a publisher who accepted it. And they were going to publish it for free. And they charged me nothing to publish it. And when it came out, they hadn't done any of the edits. And so I sold 200 copies and was humiliated and embarrassed. I was like, wait, these people, I took pre-orders. So by the time the book showed up and I sold all the copies, the people were coming back to me with, oh, what is this? And what did you do? I mean, it was the most disheartening thing. So I began to challenge the publisher. Wasn't working. They weren't responsive. Everything was copy and paste emails. So I started studying the publishing industry, and I did that for 5 years. My contract was 7 years, and there was nothing I could do. But I knew that I was a writer, and I had more writing in me. And I didn't want to give it away after putting so much time and energy into something. And I trust an editor with it, and it didn't happen for me. And the contract was so complex. And I was like, if I ever were to publish anyone or do anything for anyone, I would make it no hidden fine print. I make everything clear. I'd be very integral. I make sure that my character and my signature is on it. Wouldn't put anything out there that misrepresents a person in any way. And I wouldn't try to get over on people like it happened to me. So that's how I ended up starting my own company. I was starting my company to publish myself. So after 5 years of studying the industry, I learned some secrets that I could use that would help me. And then as a result, the people that I was ghostwriting for wanted me to then publish them. So there are people that I've published, but then there are also people I've ghostwritten for who went in another direction and were published by other publishers. So I have over 80 titles in the last 5 years that I'm a part of, whether I produced it, created it, wrote it, coached through it, or just published it, a finished product. And so that's where I am today.
Okay, so let's go back to this 4 years old. That's a very interesting Christmas. That's very rare. You're talking about a typewriter at 4 years old where everybody else is looking for games and toys and Hulk.
Those too.
Right. Action figures, and you're asking for a typewriter, Bible, etc. How did that happen? And what were you surrounded? You had to be surrounded by something in the arts. You had to be, right? Or were you just that unicornish?
No, my mother was, at the time, I think this would have been 1983. She had just come into the faith or ministry, and she was watching Apostle Dr. Fred Price often. So I'm sure this is a person you may know or may have seen.
Sure.
podcast. And so it was something about that just resonated with me and I connected with. But that didn't come on very often. That was a once a week kind of thing, if that. And I didn't know, I wasn't tracking it or DVRing it to know anything, but there was something about that I saw myself in. I don't know what that was. I can't tell you. All I know is I knew then that this is what I was here to do.
Did you ever stray away from the writing?
Yeah, see, I told you I couldn't read. So I'm telling you that I'm here to publish and I can't even read.
So what did you do? So at 4 years old, you knew you was going to be a writer. You knew something special was about your writing. But what did you do when you went off track to do whatever else? Like, what else did you do?
Sing.
What is it?
Sing.
Oh, sing.
Sing in sports. I didn't focus on the writing. That was in the back of my mind. I knew that that's what I was here to do ultimately, but singing was something that came natural, and people gave me money to do it. I stand outside and sing in the ghetto, and people would give me dollars. I stand in the grocery store in the aisle and sing in the dairy section, and people would walk up to me and give me money. I sing on the bus like Tyrese. I was 5, 6 years old. And from the time I was in the kindergarten to the 3rd grade, I opened school every day with the Negro National Anthem. On the intercom, live on the intercom every day. And hated for it because I was called, this is interesting, because I was pulled around with the principal throughout the city. I'm from Washington, D.C. So okay. I'm pulled around throughout the city, going down to important meetings all the time. The principal was well connected throughout the city. I wasn't in the classroom very much. And when I was always, and so if we had an assembly program, I was at both programs for the grade level that I was in and the upper level. So I didn't spend a lot of time in the class, and they were pushing me through because I was the superstar of the school. So I overcompensated for not being able to read and write well for my gift of singing. And as a result, I was hated. So I got into a lot of fights. First of all, I'm raised in the hood. So by definition, I went through a lot of fights. But it doesn't help when you're getting favor in the classroom, when people are in there studying and working just as hard or harder than you, and you're getting pushed through while they're working hard just because you are some, celebrity student or whatever. So my mother.
That's why you couldn't really read.
No, I couldn't. I wasn't focused on that, and I didn't care. But the gift that was in me was interpretation. Because I couldn't read, I always had to live by revelation. So if I'm watching something on TV, even now, I go to the end of the sentence when I see it. When I see a sentence come up, I go to the end of the sentence. I'm a bottom line person. If I'm reading something back then, if I say the tree, I would literally see the tree being planted in the ground and then spurting up and having branches. I couldn't move past the visual. Everything for me was visual. I didn't see the words. I saw the origin of those words. So that was the relationship I had with words, which caused me to stumble while reading and stutter while reading because I was stuck. I didn't care what came next. I was stuck at the tree. I saw the orange. I saw the vividness, the picture that my imagination had run away with me. I had to overcompensate for it. I listened to adults. I was always drawn to people who were older than me because they had wisdom. And I didn't, when you read a book, you can travel around the world. I didn't read books. I didn't read a book until I was grown. I may have been 21 before I read my first book. And I had already written papers and won essay contests and I had never read a book. It's literally a gift. I can't tell you, I can't make this up. I literally could not read until I was 15 years old. 1993, I'll never forget it. And then all of a sudden, when you read scripture, it's okay to stop after the third word or to read one verse and meditate in it. That was a gift that I had always had but academically that's horrible. But biblically that's good because I always think that a person who says, I've read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, I'm like, that's stupid. Because it's a living word, and you have to take your time in it. Walk, and even today, I could read fast, but I choose not to. I take my time in it. You can read the same thing I read. I'm gonna come in after you, but I'm gonna know more about it than you because I let it soak in. I meditate in it. I see it. I imagine it. I'm one with. I've developed a relationship with the words that I'm reading, and so I only have to read it one time, and I got it. I may not read it as fast. It don't matter how fast you get there. It's not about how fast you are. It's about the quality, not about the speed. And some people trade quality for speed.
Hmm. So what is it about what are the different things that you do in what you do are what? We got the ghostwriting.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can sing.
I don't do that anymore. I play around with it, but I don't do it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So what else do you do?
So I stay in my lane. I can do various things. I can cook. I can sew. I'm very innovative, creative, but I stay in the writing area.
Oh, so you're writing.
I stay in the writing area. That's where my gift is honed. And so, for instance, I learned how to transcribe by doing an internship at the Social Security Administration, where I was doing an internship and I transcribed recorded hearings from administrative law judges. And so I would sit there and I would listen to the entire message and I would type it up by dictation, type the hearing up. So that's how I learned how to transcribe. And I was 18, 19 at the time. And then I can do ghostwriting, where I can actually take your idea and from conception to page turn. I can give you a format and a skeleton based on what you want, what you see, what you're imagining, and we can write it together. And then the third thing I do is coaching. So if you already wrote a book or you're writing one and you just need some help and some guidance, I can help you to finish that and bring it to a published ready file where it's now ready to be published. So I'm not writing for you. I'm guiding you through it. I'm telling you, I'm giving you an analysis. I'm giving you a review and then an analysis and then a strategic plan that you can implement that will help you get to the finish line. And if you want me to do some content editing, I can do that too. But that's a different cost.
Okay, so here's a popular question that I know our listeners always have. There's always somebody listening to my podcast that wants to write a book.
Okay.
And they've been wanting to write a book for 10, 15 years. And I don't know if they're telling the truth or not, right? I honestly don't. Yeah. But some of them even say, I have it done. I mean, I've been writing and I have it. I just need to, take some time out and I need to go to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
What would you, obviously that person, it sounds like they need to contact you and they need to contact you immediately. Because, I get tired sometimes of people when they say that. I honestly do. Like, come on, let's get it done. There's a lot more things, because a lot of people think that writing a book is the most difficult thing about doing a book. Mm-hmm. They think it's over. Like, I'm done. The book is finished. I've arrived. Mm-hmm. And that's not true at all. That's just when it first begins. So I'm like, hurry up and let's get through it. Mm-hmm. What would you recommend to that person that says, you know what, I've been wanting to write this book for 10, 15 years. I have all the content. What do they need to do next?
So the first thing is to qualify the author. Every one of us has an experience in a story that we want to tell. And sometimes we mistakenly think that we need to go preach it. We need to put it in a book. We need to do a movie. All of our families have instances where there are things that if people heard them or read them or seen them on a big screen, it would be a bestseller or it would be a box office hit. So the first thing is to qualify the desire and say, what is your hope with this book? This book is going to do what? Because books don't sell themselves, authors do. And oftentimes people will write a book, and I've seen this many times, and then they'll get frustrated because it doesn't go anywhere. So what was your hope for the book? And is this really something that you're serious about? Because you put your money when you're serious. You put your money where it matters for you. That's when you want to know what someone's passion is, follow their money, and it'll show you where their passions are. So if you're not ready to put up an advertising budget, a marketing budget, hire a writer, a coach, a publishing, whatever it is that you need, some consulting, if you're not ready to finance your own dream, then you're not ready to write a book. So if you were to say, let's say you do have a book and you want to publish it, and it's going to cost you $1,500 or it could be $15,000, depending on what you want. After that, then what? You deploy the book and you assign the book somewhere. You have to give your book an assignment. If you don't go out and promote the book, then it's not going to do anything, and you wasted money and time. So unless you're